One last thing I need to cover that I forgot to do in the previous video is showing you how you can adaptively change your rig in case your character has things like tails, an extra arm, or anything like that, and if you need to add those. So what you would need to do is hopefully you've again saved a widgets file. So if you go to File, Open Scene, we can always go back to your widgets before we rigged it. Don't save. And then so we have all these widgets here and in place, and we can start to adapt this based on our needs. So let's say your character is, let's say it's similar to Goatman, and you've got that extra joint or that hock in the back of our legs. We can actually delete these and adapt quadruped legs into a sort of a biped setup. And so if you ever need to delete anything off of your current rig, what you'll want to do is select the primary box widget. So in this case, I'm going to grab this one for the foot. And then up here in the TSM3, I'm going to break this menu out. And in here, there's this delete body parts. And so if you have a box widget selected, if I hit this delete body parts, it's going to delete everything associated with that box widget. So in that case, it deleted the leg straight out of there. Now, if I want to add a new leg, what I'll do here is go to create parts, and let's go to leg and click on the options box. So in here, you have the ability to do one leg at a time, or you can do a mirrored. I'm going to leave it at mirrored at X. You can still add toes if you want, and then there's an option here for quadruped leg. I'm going to go ahead and click that and hit OK. I'm going to let it do its thing, and then it's going to bring in this quadruped leg. Now the setup for this is pretty similar to the other leg, and really all I need to do is grab the box widget, move it in place, scale it down, and then I want the pivot for this box to be in the center of my ankle, wherever that would rotate from. So let's go to the right view and take a look there. Position that. And then you can start positioning these individual widget joints. So this would still go in the back of our heel. This would still go into the toe pivot there. This one's going to be our ball. Let me turn off the geometry selection. Put that down there. Now obviously my character doesn't have the anatomy for this, but you would position the hock where you need it in the back of the hock joint. This would again would go in the front of wherever your knee is at, and then this would go in the center of your where the bone would be socketed into the pelvis. If I go to the front view, like I said, my character's leg is pretty straight, but what I would want to do is grab the box widget and make sure that this is in the center of the ankle. And then once that's center, what I would do is start grabbing these other subsequent joints. And so let's say your knee is angled outwards. You would just position this to be in the center of wherever your knee or that anatomy's at. You know, these up here, we can maybe push in towards the center of the body. And then just have this kind of match wherever that anatomy's at. If your feet are angled outwards, and I think we already covered this in the previous rig, you would just grab this box down here and angle that out like so. And then we would maybe have to translate these back into the center of wherever they need to be. Now we also have to attach this. So to attach it, what we'll do is we'll grab the joint here for the upper leg. I'll shift select the green joint here for the spine. And then with both of those selected, we'll go to the setup machine window and hit attach body parts. So it's kind of similar to our jaw in that way. And then it's going to attach our legs to this. Let's say you have a tail and you want to put a tail on here. Let's go in here to TSM3, create body parts, and let's go ahead and create a tail. And again, we always grab the box first to set the initial position. So I'm going to push this back. I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees here to be behind our character. And then let's scale it down. Let's go to the right view. Now, you want the pivot point for this to be wherever the base of your tail is going to rotate from. So it's probably going to be on your rear posterior here, wherever the tail is based, where the base is at, or where it meets the rest of your character's anatomy. And then let's say your tail's at an angle. I could take this box widget and rotate it down in Z, maybe. There it goes. And then once we get this where we want it, you could grab these joints and then just translate them however you need them. So I would avoid moving them from side to side like this unless you absolutely need to, but hopefully your character, you could just position these in translation in Y or Z. Let's say there's a little bit of curve to your tail. We just set that up to match, again, your character's anatomy. And then once you get this all set up, we're going to attach it to the spine as well. That way, when we shake our hips, the tail will follow with it. So I'm going to grab the first tail joint. I will shift select the spine joint there, and then we'll go back to TSM3, and let's hit attach body parts. And then once we're done, you'd save your widgets file. So we'd go up to File, Save Scene As, and save it as a widgets. That way we can always go back and recorrect things if we need to. And then we would define our character's geometry. Now, like I said, my geometry is not going to match because I don't have the anatomy for this setup, but with all that selected, go in here, hit Set Character Geometry. We'll go back and hit Rig. Let's set this down to 3 and hit Rig and let it do its thing. So like I said, it is a pretty versatile plugin. Let me turn off my geometry. And so there you'll see we have the tail connected to the spine. And then if I were to grab these controllers and rotate them, I should have a tail that I can rotate and curl, sway from side to side. You may even be able to use this for hair, but you would maybe parent it into the head joint as opposed to the spine. And then if I were to, let's say, grab the spine controller or the hip and rotate it, you can see that when I rotate it, the tail sways with it, which is exactly what we would want. And then, if we look at the legs, we get those hock joints, and if we move it, we get those moving along like a quadruped. So again, it's a pretty versatile rig setup. It's really easy to adapt this rig to different types of anatomy. But I'll go ahead and stop here, and then the rest of class is work day.